Can somebody do the roll? Mr. Mercado's going to be late. Mike, put you on the spot.
Chairman, Vice Chair Natali,
I'm here.
Commissioner Bowman. Commissioner Kaderis. Commissioner Downs. Commissioner Selmont. Commissioner Mercado. Commissioner Dawson. Chairman Kurtz. Commissioner Strollo. Alternate Ms. Blake. Alternate Mr. Hilsinger. Alternate Mr. Affey. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Can everybody join me in the pledge, please?
You don't have to read the call. It's a continued public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to recuse myself.
For the record, Mr. Bowman is recusing himself. So we have the continuation of the public hearing for Blackberry Woods and for the applicant.
For the applicant, Anthony Fazzone. I'm an attorney with offices here in Cheshire. And seems like the first part of this public hearing was quite a while ago. And at the conclusion of that public hearing portion, I indicated that I would be putting into the record copies of the model declaration of covenants, easements, and restrictions, which primarily address the creation of the homeowners association and the homeowners' responsibilities with respect to maintenance of the open space, which in every subdivision situation these days includes the maintenance of the detention basins. So I have individual copies. Along with this, when the contract for an approved subdivision, when we do one, the first page of the contract in bold print tells the prospective buyer that that it's mandatory that each homeowner be a member of the homeowners association, and that the homeowners association has responsibilities with respect to maintenance of properties, including the detention basins. And in addition to that, we attach a copy of the draft declaration of easements and restrictions. Okay. So I understand you all have copies. Okay. And Mr. Glidden pointed out in his memo that we have received wetlands approval. And in fact, and I think that was pretty much it. We had gone through our presentation. I think you've received a memo from Mr. Glidden, which discussed further the sidewalk situation, and for which the applicant is seeking a waiver of sidewalks. And I think his memo spells out a proposal to the town to bond for the cost of one of the sidewalks. And I see that the engineering department is here, and I understand they're here to answer your questions about the sidewalks.
I know it was a major concern last time, so
So maybe I'll start, and then Justin Stone, the Assistant Town Engineer, is with me. First off, the last meeting, we talked about the sidewalk issue. As proposed, the sidewalks do not meet ADA. Justin could explain that to you, why. I know the commission also had questions about Balsam Court, how that went during construction, so we can answer those. There's two things that I wanted to point out. So what Attorney Fazzone was referencing was you have a motion in front of you, which was crafted under the guidance of the town attorney on how to handle potentially the sidewalks for this development. One of the things is that the plans, what we are recommending is that a waiver be granted for one side of the proposed road. So just have sidewalks shown on the file plans on the southern side of the road. Shows the feasibility that sidewalks can be constructed along that shoulder of the proposed road. Two, that the applicant will provide a financial surety for the construction of these sidewalks as shown on the approved plans. Number three is that when they post that bond, we're going to use that money to construct sidewalks, which may or may not be on this site. The engineering department and Public Works has a plan in the future being 2025, extending sidewalks along the western side of Marion Road to Balsam Court. What we are thinking of using this money for is to connect that sidewalk network to this development, which would mean anyone that had children that resided in this development would be walkers to the new school. So that would provide it would address two things. One, they would be walkers. Two, they'd have a safe access to the school via Marion Road. Justin, I don't know, do you want to add anything regarding?
So Mike is correct. We do have in the works right now a consultant that is connecting Balsam to the school property, and then they'll be continuing on the other side of the school property where Jarvis is, outside of the school property, to connect sidewalks from there to Dundee as part of a safe routes to school type of project. So he's correct. If we can extend them, given the surety, we can extend them to this new development if they're going to be walkers. That way they can safely walk down Marion Road.
Okay. I know the last time we had a lot more questions about, as Michael indicated, sidewalks within the development, not so much on Marion Road. So you want to address those?
Well, the sidewalks in the development are not within ADA and PROAG standards. The running slope of a sidewalk is not to exceed 5%. The piece of paper that Mike handed out to you with the highlighting on it, that comes from the proposed right-of-way accessibility guidelines, or PROAG for short, that kind of highlights how public sidewalks should be constructed and designed. I have highlighted an area where it says that they are not to exceed 5%. There is an exception to that, where it says, where the grades established for the adjacent street exceed 5%, the grade of the pedestrian access route, which is a sidewalk, shall not exceed the grade established for the adjacent street. So these are not established streets yet. So like an established street would be like Marion Road. So if Marion Road was at 6%, you could, per PROAG, put sidewalks that go along the slope of that road. But as they stand inside of this the subdivision, they are not within the compliance of ADA and PROAG guidelines.
So what about, we mentioned Balsam Court too. So they have I went up there and walked, for the record,
Yeah.
on the sidewalks on both sides. And from what the applicant said last time, the slope is very similar to what's there. So why would we waive them for this when they were built on the next development over?
The engineering department was not here when Balsam Place was approved. I don't know if you want to speak to that at all, or?
Yeah, I talked to Merrick about this, and it really should have been caught during the approval process. It was not caught for Balsam Court. It was caught for this application. So, I mean, really what it gets down to is that, as Justin said, if it's proposed, cannot exceed 5%. If it's existing, then you can exceed 5% and match the percentage of the roadway. Hence why in discussions with the town attorney, the approach that we are proposing to you would handle that, because then you would have a road that's established that down the road one, we'll have monies to build the sidewalk, and two, we'd have an area that's going to be reserved for it.
So is the applicant looking to put sidewalks only on one side or no sidewalks?
So their plans are going to only show it on one side, And what we're, like I said, we're going to do is take a financial surety to guarantee the.
On Marion Road.
We're going to take the financial surety of the value of those sidewalks, and we're going to use it either on Marion Road, or if we choose to build it along the existing road, once that's built, then they would be compliant to ADA. But as it stands, we could not build sidewalks that are compliant to ADA on a proposed road. So this is unfortunately it's semantics, that proposed versus existing, but that's the way that, otherwise, you would be approving a sidewalk that does not meet ADA standards.
Which we did on Balsam, so what's the repercussions there?
Well, so here's the dilemma. You have an engineering review that says it doesn't meet ADA. So if someone were to be injured on this sidewalk, the town could be held liable on this particular application
But
in
not
this
on Balsam?
development. Not on, well, that's a Jeff D'Onofrio question, but we're advising you, this approach that what you have in front of you is what's recommended how to handle this issue.
But if there's liability on the town for a sidewalk, is there a huge difference in grade between one side of the street and the other? Aren't we just as liable if you have a sidewalk on one side versus both sides?
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
yeah, as long as, it's really, it's the running slope of 5%. If you exceed that, then you are outside of compliance with ADA and PROAG standards.
How far off are we?
You're at 10% in some areas.
Ooh.
Yeah. I don't think it's everywhere. I mean, I know you marked these up with the percentages. I don't think it's everywhere, but I don't think there's anything but the entrance and the cul-de-sac, I don't think are below 5%.
Isn't the ADA restriction for commercial buildings like 12%?
Inside of a building and on a right-of-way are different.
Like from a parking lot to a commercial building, I just personally had to go through something like this. So I have, from the parking lot to the commercial building is more than 5%. Allowed.
Yeah, I wouldn't know because that's when you start getting on the private, so
So
that's
this-
why we
this
have this is the public right-of-way accessibility guidelines.
This is for a street.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is for a street, or they call it a highway, but it's a street.
Unfortunately, the way ADA works, they have two different standards. So I agree with you, Tom. If it was if that magic number, let's say 12, applied each location, then it makes sense. But the reality is, because this is a public facility, a public street, we're held to a different standard.
Yeah. Yep.
And like I said, the big dilemma would be is that, like I said, you'd be approving a sidewalk that does not meet ADA.
You're just opening up the town for a lawsuit.
Exactly. Hence why in discussions with the town attorney, this approach alleviates that issue.
And the approach he's proposing is, because we're connecting it to Marion.
Well, what we're doing is basically delaying it and deciding what's appropriate to locate the sidewalk, whether it's connecting it to Marion or building it within the development. But then we're to control the destiny, and therefore, at that time, it's ADA compliant because you have a road.
Okay, and is there a chance that the town would get stuck paying for the ADA, to upgrade it to ADA compliant?
So to get back to Justin's comment, Justin, correct me if I'm wrong, if the road is in, it's existing road, then it's compliant. This is how much sense it makes. I know.
I've gone through something like this personally,
What-
and it was a ridiculous situation. And I obviously care very much about ADA compliance. On the other hand, some of this is,
There's no,
Compatible, you know.
and don't take this the wrong way, there's no common sense on how this standard is written. And really, what this attempt is to protect not only the developer, but more importantly, the town on this issue.
so, so long as Jeff D'Onofrio has reviewed it and has a strategy in place to minimize the liability to the town, i.e. doing it after the fact or whatever semantics that has to happen, then great. How do we get assured that it's going to get built at some point in the future?
So that's
Through the
what.
surety, through
That's
the-
the financial surety. That's where the financial sureties, your cash bond.
Yeah.
Protects you. And then also, at the same time, no building permits are to be issued until that cash bond is one.
place, yeah.
In place, but then also the amount that goes into that cash bond is reviewed by the engineering department and approved, so it's going to be a real number that goes in.
All right, so there's no way they could.
There's no way you could skirt the issue.
Correct,
And this,
okay.
like I said, this is one, it balances everyone's wants and needs, but most importantly, protects the liability of the town of Cheshire.
Great, okay, thank you.
I have a question. Didn't you just say that if half the sidewalk is built, then the town could be liable for anything that happens on it?
No, if this,
What, I thought that's what he just said.
Yeah, it's if you exceed 5%
And
On
won't
a
it exceed?
proposed.
on a proposed road.
But isn't that what we're proposing, more than 5%?
this proposal, yes, it exceeds 5%. But this is what, it's, I'm sorry, it really is semantics. If that road is constructed, let's say in a perfect world, that road existed today, you could put sidewalks along that side that could exceed 5% and that would comply to ADA standards. On both sides. But you can't. That's what we're doing. I would recommend one side on this. You've had granted waivers in the past, Whispering Oaks for sidewalks on only one side. I mean, what we've seen on some of the newer developments, the sidewalks, only one side is being used.
I mean, in Balsam, I don't ever see anybody walk on a sidewalk when I've
They're
been there.
walking in the road.
They walk on the road, yeah.
And that's a similar steep
Yeah.
development.
But it doesn't make sense to me that we would allow someone to build a road so that we can change the rule to allow them, it doesn't make sense.
But again,
We're allowing something to go in that isn't fitting the rules as they are now. We're changing rules to allow this to happen. You're saying if it's an existing road, it's not an existing road, so why are we treating it like an existing road?
we're not. We're treating it like proposed, so on the proposed road, they're gonna put sidewalks on one side. So until the road is official, the town could still be liable for that one side. So again, my
Correct.
question is, again, the recommendation, I know, our zoning regulations call for sidewalks on both sides, correct?
Correct.
They're gonna hold a bond for Marion,
Well-
potentially for Marion Road down.
If you wanted to go the recommendation of the town engineer, he recommends that no sidewalks are constructed.
Correct.
So
Why?
that would actually be our position.
Why is he
Gets
Excuse
back
me.
to the ADA
Yeah,
issue.
so the recommendation of the engineering department is that no sidewalks are constructed because you can't mathematically put a 5% sidewalk
So-
on a 10% road.
Until it becomes a real road.
So the compromise is, we would say one side.
But what I heard at the last hearing from council was that cost was also an issue, and that they didn't want to turn it over to the homeowners association to be responsible for clearing the rest of that off. And Attorney Fasone, I don't want to speak for you, but I believe that's what you said last time.
The homeowner association would be responsible for the sidewalk in front of the properties, just like a homeowner is responsible. I don't think I said anything differently. No.
So I think what Attorney Fazzone was saying is where my mouse is right here, for example, that's property that is owned by the HOA. You have property over here that's owned by the HOA that has the stormwater features. Same thing over here. And scroll down a little more, down here.
I just want to take the HOA out of it because the HOA is the HOA. If it's part of the property, it's part of the responsibility of the HOA, it's part of the responsibility for the HOA, just as if you said it was the drainage fields or the catch
No, but it
basins.
would be sidewalk in front of their properties also.
Okay.
One more last, so if it was an existing road, what is the ADA compliance?
To follow the slope of the road. Yeah. To follow the slope of the road.
Is this a Connecticut thing or is this a national?
No,
thing?
this is a federal thing, yeah.
Yeah. We can't, there's no way around it. We have
There-
to follow
There
this
is,
rule.
there is a little bit of a caveat that isn't in this particular page, but all of it really comes down to engineering judgment, right? That's the caveat in all of this, right? If you were to ask me as an engineer to walk out to a 10% road and tell you if you could put sidewalks on it, I would tell you to put a wheelchair on it and watch it go down and see how fast it goes down the sidewalk. You know, it's a safety concern at that point.
Yeah, long story short, they made me put a lazy S sidewalk in because we couldn't shed grade enough. I had my first wheelchair-bound client come in, and they hated it.
Yeah.
Because now the old lady had to
Go all the way around.
go all the
yeah.
way around.
Yeah.
And again, as much as I appreciate ADA for disabled folks, there's a lot of dumb rules or regulations in there. I hate to say it like that, but they don't make sense.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's there to protect people, but there's a lot of, and Casey, I know you're concerned about this, I agree with you, but there's a lot of silly rules with ADA, silly regulations and nuances. Yeah, and I hear what you're saying, but having personal experience with it, I know exactly what they're thinking and trying to do. You know, in my opinion, from a practical standpoint, having a sidewalk, period, is smarter than not. You know, if you don't have a sidewalk, people are going to be walking in the street, which is not safe. So having a sidewalk of anything, common sense says that's a good idea. You know, we're planning, you know, the town engineer wants to delete the sidewalk or not have a sidewalk, so you don't have to worry about the ADA component of it?
Well, you have to remember, it's not about worrying with the engineering department, it's objective.
Right.
We're saying don't put the sidewalks in because you can't mathematically meet the requirement.
Right, so we're defying logic to make it fit a regulation. That's what kills me.
And and unfortunately, like I said, you have a proposed road that you build this thing that technically does not meet this federal standard. Now we've opened up the door to liability to the town. Mm-hmm. So, and that's, when Merrick explained this to me initially, I had the first reaction, the head scratch, like, are you kidding me?
Right.
Like, this is like, so, and that's why, like I said, we came up with this plan to address it and protect the town and protect these future
Right. So,
residents.
Casey, all they're doing it's a shell game, and we, the town, the applicant, will be in compliance if we build the road and then add a sidewalk instead of just doing it at the same time. And it's, the only reason why we're all doing this is for liability.
That's what I'm concerned about, the town.
But it's not liability once the road's constructed.
Right.
That's really what it boils down to. It sounds like the rules are being bent, but really what it comes down to is once the road's built, it's not a liability issue.
But again, that was my.
On
As you
paper,
say,
it
it sounds
is.
like the rules are being bent.
It's not.
But that's what it sounds like to me. That's
I
how I
understand.
am perceiving it. You can explain it a million times, but I perceive it as the rules being
It
bent.
sounds shady, but it's not. It's using the rules to everybody's advantage.
So last question again, I just want to make sure I'm clear on it. Then why wouldn't we just hold, if we want to put sidewalks on both sides, hold them on until the road is built, it's an existing road, then we don't have a problem?
I mean, if it would still be, again, I'm not trying to,
But it would conform though.
it would conform, but then it would be, from the engineering perspective, it would be a safety concern, right? Because now you have a 10% road. I mean, Balsam's kind of a safety
But it
concern. when
conforms,
comes to-
so it won't be a
But it would
liability.
conform. There would be no real reason we would just be, you would get a note from engineering saying that, you know, we are worried about maybe the safety of a person in a wheelchair on it, but it would still conform with ProAg and ADA. There would be no like standard we could go to or guideline we can go to saying that this doesn't conform to it. It would just be more of us telling you that we perceive a safety issue here. That'd be it.
So how many houses are on each side of the street? Where there would be only one side with sidewalks? Are there like 10 houses on one side and one house on the other side where people wouldn't use it? Or is it pretty straight?
Good evening. For the record, Ryan McAvoy, licensed professional engineer with SLR. Just to answer your question, the reason why we showed the sidewalk on the southern side of the road this way and the southern side of the road this way is that there would be more lots that would take advantage of it. There's more density on the southern side than there's a northern side, and that goes to the comment I made too about the homeowners association, that large portions of sidewalk on the northern side of the road would be along homeowners association land. So that wouldn't be really, practically used by the homeowners association, clearly. So that was part of the logic why we picked the southern side than the northern side, just to clarify why we went that way versus the other way.
Excuse me, what's your name again?
Justin,
Justin, you just said prior to him talking that Balsam is a safety concern.
correct,
And now, which didn't get picked up,
correct.
and now we're allowing this for this place, and it's
Yeah, it-
not a safety
I
concern?
didn't say it would still be a safety concern. That's what I'm saying. You just wouldn't be in violation of a federal guideline. That's the caveat to that.
But I don't understand that. So if it's a safety concern,
It would still be a safety concern. I mean, a 10% slope, if you have somebody, and I'm going to extremes, somebody in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
Going down as 10% slope, I mean, they could pick up a lot of speed, and they really can't stop themselves from going down that. I mean, I went up a wheelchair on a 2% slope, and I thought I was gonna die, because my arms were like jello. So you can't go up it, you can't go down it as a person who has a handicap, a physical handicap that's to that extreme. So it would
So-
you would still get a note from engineering saying that this is a safety concern for residents, right? But you wouldn't be in direct violation of a federal guideline.
so we're allowing something that's a safety concern, but then it would be okay with ADA, but it's still a safety concern for residents.
Correct.
Any resident, all residents?
Anybody so ADA is specific to anybody with a disability.
Right.
Again, I'm going to extremes, saying someone in a wheelchair, that doesn't make up everyone who uses a sidewalk. It's a very small
Right.
portion, but that's the worst-case scenario. You have
But
wheels.
that's what we have to prepare for.
Yeah, it would still be the recommendation of the engineering department to not have sidewalks on Blackberry Woods because of the safety concern of people utilizing it even after it was,
Even after it's approved
even
by the
after it's
ADA.
approved and built. That would still be our recommendation, but you, like I said, you just wouldn't be in violation of ADA or PROAG.
Thank you.
So if we go, if we were to go to your recommendation of no sidewalks, would the town or the developer be liable for anything? Because people are walking on the,
It's a road, right? So
Okay.
there's no ADA compliance for a road.
okay.
I think I'm not sure because I didn't write ADA.
Yeah.
But I think their thought process is if there's a road, you're not supposed to walk on it. Like I said, I see people walk on roads all the time.
Yeah.
But it's supposed to be for vehicles. Sidewalks are supposed to be for pedestrians, and when you have a sidewalk, we're just thinking worst case scenario, like I said,
Okay.
someone in the wheelchair trying to go up or
But
down.
then if they build it, you said we're not ignoring the regulations, but
You're
it's
not
still
in viola-
safety.
yeah, you're not in
Is there
violation.
liability there?
You wouldn't be in violation, so it's not like the Department of Justice will come knocking on your door saying, why didn't you follow the PROAG standards? But it would still be our recommendation as engineering from a safety perspective.
But anybody can sue anybody, so they could still,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. Thank you.
Overall, with the exclusion of, with the inclusion of ADA, would the street be overall safer for everybody with or without sidewalks?
I would say without sidewalks, again, just if you have someone with a disability, they're gonna gravitate to the sidewalk, and then if you build it with the road the way it is now, there'd just be a safety concern if they utilize it.
So it's safer not to have a sidewalk?
I would say yes, yeah.
So we shouldn't have a sidewalk at all then?
Well, that was you could take Merrick's recommendation, the town engineer, as also my recommendation. We kind of both came up with that. So it would be recommended by the engineering department to not have sidewalks within this development. I have no issue with sidewalks. It's just that in this development, we might run into some concerns.
Then why are we insisting on sidewalks if that's the overall safest and best thing use for the development as cited by the experts?
Mr. Chairman, that was my understanding, was that Merrick, the town engineer, felt that he did not want sidewalks on either side of the road, and the bonding was put up so that if the town decided, they could, in the way the motion is written, if the town decided, they could use that bonding money to do the sidewalks on Marion Road to fit in with the connection to the school system, to the new school from the neighborhoods there. So the town has an alternate they can do with the bond, the way that it would be written. And the town attorney has seen this, and he would see all of the documentation.
Instead of forcing the developer to build sidewalks and spend money there, we're basically taking the money and having you build sidewalks on Marion Avenue.
Correct.
Which we would otherwise not be able to do.
Correct. Which,
There are some towns that take fees in lieu of, I know Cheshire isn't necessarily one of them. There are towns that take fees in lieu of if you run into something like this.
Yeah.
Stay tuned, because Merrick would like to talk to you about that in a future meeting.
Yeah. So this almost sounds like a way, I mean, I'm not a lawyer. This almost sounds like a way of doing that without having it be an actual fee in lieu of.
Which has been agreed to by the town and the applicant.
So initially, you say, well, no sidewalks, you need sidewalks, that's safe, that's smart. But between, it's a side road, a cul-de-sac at that. The road is going to be generally safe, even though you're not supposed to walk on it. And we're adding sidewalks for public benefit. On a main road where kids are going to be walking, it's a good compromise.
I would also just say that with having 15-foot travel lanes and a 30-foot wide road, I mean, you're well above the requirements of road width. There's plenty of room to maneuver if you're going up or down the hill, if there is anybody that wants to walk on that. I mean, I generally,
Including in winter conditions.
including in winter conditions, correct.
So what's being proposed then right now, just want to be clear. The bond for the sidewalks on Marion Road and sidewalks on the southerly side?
The bond will cover the cost of the sidewalks on the southerly side of the proposed road. We may use that money to connect this development to the sidewalk network on Marion Road. That's why the language is very specific in
And
the
if
motion.
that money's used for that, then there will be no sidewalks in the development.
Correct,
Which is also the recommendation of the safety for the experts.
correct. Because your town engineer is recommending no sidewalks due to safety concerns and liability.
Again, I thought the liability went away once the road was built.
Part of it, not all of it.
Yeah, you're just not in violation of ADA or PROAG at that point.
Wasn't that like any sidewalk, if I walk outside of my house and it's at a 0% grade and I fall? What's the difference?
The difference, there's an HOA here, so the HOA is open liability too.
Well, the difference is that there's a public record right now saying that sidewalks are dangerous, and that we're insisting upon having it. More than that, that puts us at risk.
Okay. Attorney Fazone, anything? Before we go to the public?
Yeah, do you want to talk about the water?
Again, Ryan McAvoy for the record. Just to touch on the other waiver that's being requested, it has to do with service of the upper six most lots with public, well, rather than public water, serving them with wells. This was discussed at the last meeting, but I just want to, in case anyone has any questions or go over the reasoning why we're asking for that partial waiver. Again, it's because the regulations consider that any development in R40 zone that has public water within the right-of-way of that street that it's connecting to, connect the lots with public water. Now, as I mentioned at the last meeting, our property is extremely deep in terms of distance from Marion Road, and there's quite a bit of grade change, some 200 feet from Marion Road going up the hill towards I-84. And we reviewed with RWA the available pressure in Marion Road in a 16-inch main, which is substantial. They have quite a bit of pressure in the road at that location. However, as you go hundreds of feet up gradient, several thousand feet into the site, we do run into the challenge where they will not be able to serve the uppermost 6 lots with water pressure, anything above elevation 337, which is about 137 feet above, about 150 feet above Marion Road. So we're able to serve 24 of the lots with public water. We're able to get a hydrant within 500 feet of the end of the cul-de-sac, but it's just those last 6 lots that are upgrading to that point that we're unable to serve with the current water system within Regional Water Authority's network. Now, we did review this with the Health Department, of course, because wells would be under their jurisdiction. And sort of similar to your regulations, the Department of Public Health, in addition to Chespercott, would normally otherwise require these lots to be connected to public water. And based on the facts, based on what RWA provided in terms of their availability of pressure in their network, they concluded, the Health Department, Health District, Chespercott Health District, and the Department of Public Health, that well exceptions are appropriate for those upper sixmost lots. Similarly, we reviewed it with the fire department. And we reviewed the water system as it is, the hydrant locations as they are, where they're proposed, and that the upper sixmost lots without availability of public water, we also offered that those 6 lots would have sprinkler systems within the house, and that eased the concerns of the fire marshal's office, and they reflected that in their most recent correspondence. So we believe that the sort of unique nature of this property, given how large it is, how deep it is from east to west, and how much upgrading it is at the terminus of our cul-de-sac from Marion Road, that this kind of presents a unique situation with respect to this property that is not typical in most developments where public water is available at the street. We're just so far geographically, topographically different at the far end of the development that bringing water service up to this point would be an extreme hardship.
Are they getting public sewer?
No, these are on septic systems.
So it's going to be well and septic?
For the upper 6, the rest are going to be public water and septic.
And obviously, they perk okay, and there's no problem getting wells in there, et cetera, et cetera. et cetera.
Oh, not at all, not at all.
For me, this makes sense for this portion of it. But question for you, and I don't know if you have the answer. So when the new school comes online, I know that's going to suck up a lot of water, there's sprinklers outside for the fields and everything else. Did they take that into consideration? Basically, are there enough that are going to be on wells where the people just below there are going to have the pressure?
So when we review these with Regional Water Authority, they have models. And in their models, they have not only developments that are existing with users of the water system, they also have in their models future users. So if the school, for example, requested of Regional Water Authority 8,000 gallons a day, something along those lines, that would be included in their model. Now, what the reality is 8,000 gallons a day on a 16-inch water main is a drop in the bucket. It's really the pressure in the line. It's not so much the available flow through a line that large, it's the pressure in the line. And in order to serve the uppermost lots, the pressure would need to be substantially increased. And in order to do that, you need booster pump infrastructure and/or extensive water main extensions from Waterbury Road all the way down to Marion Road from high pressure to low pressure. In other words, very extensive amount of infrastructure to serve these 6 lots. And again, they'll all be, every single house in this development will be within 1,000 feet of a hydrant. That will have adequate pressure, adequate flow capability. So we really think this is a very limited request of the commission in terms of a waiver. Yep. Yeah, they're very sensitive about these things, and they're very thorough. And they're very specific about what elevation they can achieve pressure at.
Fire, police, they're all good.
Come on up to the microphone. State your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name's Andrew White. I live at 1505 Marion Road. Would be this white box here. I'm a licensed professional engineer, registered in the state of Connecticut. I just wanted to touch briefly on the project. I am certainly not opposed to the project. Love for it to remain woods. Not quite practical. Someone owns it and they're looking to develop on it, and we are in a housing shortage. The conversation about sidewalks, as a parent of 3 that are going through the Cheshire school system, as well as likely 2 of them will be at the new school, I am certainly in favor of sidewalks. I'm more in favor of sidewalks on Marion Road than for a subdivision itself. So if this board does deem it appropriate, as a parent, as a member of the community, I do think sidewalks along Marion would certainly be more appropriate than the neighborhood itself. If it was determined on one side of the street versus both sides of the street, I would also be in favor of that versus putting them on both sides of the road, especially for the low volume of traffic that you would have from a 30-home subdivision versus other roads, particularly Marion Road. So that is my comments for the project, and thank you very much for what you do and for your time.
Attorney Fazone?
There are some considerations, and with respect to the waivers, and one of them these waivers affect only the internal property of the subdivision itself. It's not like we were looking for a waiver of, say, the rear lot setback where you could build a house 10 or 20 feet closer to a neighboring property. The waivers, both of these waivers are totally within the subdivision and should have no, in and of themselves, have no effect on the adjoining properties. Is it the commission's intent to close the public hearing this evening?
Just again, sorry about sidewalks. So the bond gets posted, and whether it's the southerly side or Marion Road, if the town chooses not, and I agree with you, you should have sidewalks on Marion Road, by the way, but if the town chooses not to use that bond for that, are they then required to put the sidewalks in, or what happens to that bond?
That would be probably not a real question.
Well, yeah, that bond we posted, we're asking the applicant to post a bond, and it's really to cover our costs to do the work. We're going to pick where the work occurs based on
But
directions
one way or
from,
another, sidewalks will be built somewhere.
sidewalks will be built.
bond doesn't just go away.
This bond will be used.
Okay.
We're not going to let this one go.
Who makes that call where they go?
It'll
Town
be the
engineering?
town engineer, under guidance of the town attorney, will make sure that, we're good.
Cool, thank you.
So there'll be supervision.
I was worried that, okay, here's what we're gonna do, and then it gets kicked to another department, and they're like, oh, yeah, throw sidewalks over there.
It'll be Merrick and myself along with
Perfect,
Mr.
there you
D'Onofrio, yeah.
I'll probably tag along
It's
too.
probably you. Come from on a
They
field trip.
let me tag along to a few of these meetings.
We don't have anything specifically with respect to the public hearing, but do want the commission to know that the waivers require 7 votes, 7 positive votes. It's 3/4 of the commission present. And if the commission thinks they would want more time to consider this and vote on it, the applicant is certainly in favor of that. It is a
I
tough
don't have a
one.
crystal ball to see how everybody's gonna vote, because I know if one person that's up here tonight votes against it.
I used to do zoning board of appeals work, and I stopped doing that because I hated going in front of that board. And they had 5 members, and frequently only 4 would show up. And so you needed unanimous vote, and you have 7 sitting tonight.
Any recommendations, Michael?
Well, I mean, in fairness to the applicant, if they are saying back the train up. Under statute, if you close the hearing tonight, you have 65 days to act. So you have time. This is not an issue with a terminal date coming up.
Okay.
So I guess it would be at the discretion of the commission if you want to proceed tonight and vote on this, or, the applicant is asking to have additional members here, so that would mean we need to make sure someone else is here, they've reviewed this tape, and/or were present at the first meeting, and also state that on the record. So for the members that are absent, if you want to wait, we need to make sure that they've reviewed the record adequately, meaning they've looked at all the documents, they've reviewed the tapes, they've, et cetera. So,
No. I'd like to give the applicant personally the benefit of the doubt, and probably, personally, sorry, as chair, I'd like to close the public hearing and hold off on voting.
And we need 7 out of 7 no matter what? Out of, okay,
Yep.
okay.
He said close the public hearing and put off the
And
vote.
put off the vote.
That's fine.
Yeah. I thought you'd be okay with that.
okay.
Okay? So, any objections to that? I just want to make sure we're all on board. Okay, so we'll close the public hearing, and when we go to the regular meeting, we will not be taking a vote tonight. That's it for this agenda, so we're going to open the regular meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission for Wednesday, October 16th. Ooh. Okay, motion to close the public hearing, sorry? Mr. Carderas, Mr. Mercado, everybody, okay. All in favor? Okay, thank you, Mr. Carderas. Okay, now I'd like to open the regular meeting for the Planning and Zoning Commission for October 15th, 2024. And Mr. Mercado, let's see, you're here. Can you indicate that Mr. Mercado joined the meeting? Okay, and acceptance of the minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes? Motion to approve the minutes, second. Mr. Mercado, Mr. Carderas. Any discussion? Changes, alterations? No? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Abstaining? I'm sorry, objecting? Abstaining? Motion carries. And Michael, any communications?
Well, I know that you saw that my email probably from earlier this week, your POCD website, and I'll put it up on the screen so everyone sees it at home, is live. So anyone who's interested, you can sign up, follow the project. At the same time, right now, we have 2 community feedback activities that are occurring. As this commission knows, one is dropping a pin to your favorite spot in Cheshire. The other is looking at pedestrian crossings or improvements needed along Route 10. There'll be more on this site in the future. You can also sign up through the site to keep up to date on the POCD, and as we do more interactive activities on this site or have documents uploaded, you could follow that from home. So,
Just one comment. You guys did a great job at the Fall Festival.
thank you.
When you had the boards with the pins. I know you walked me through it and showed me some of the comments, and I thought it was wonderful that a lot of people seemed to go up there and put their comments, negative or positive.
Yeah, we didn't have trouble getting people to talk about the town, good or bad. And it wasn't all negative, so don't,
Yeah.
there was quite a few people, and there was some strange comments in there. You'll be surprised when you see what some people like about this town, maybe something what others dislike, for example, traffic.
Yeah. It was nice
Ironically,
to
we
see
had
that,
someone
so-
who said that they like seeing the number of cars going in front of their business.
But it was good. Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Question on pedestrian, maybe a little bit off, but the pedestrian crossing for the linear trail, when it stops, you use a red light to stop, and then you use a red light to go as well. The red light, which tells you to go, which is contrary to every other traffic rule. Everywhere else is gotta go.
Well, I don't know. I was driving through Wolcott the other day, and at Woodtick Road and 322, there's a blinking red light, and you stop at the blinking red light. Nobody's coming, you go. So I look at it the same way. So the red light, you stop. The blinking light, you would treat it like that. But there's two.
But they tell you to go on a green, right? They'll stop you.
These-
Sounds like it's,
This is another thing from those
yeah.
great traffic engineers, just like who developed the ADA standards, they know more than us. So I hear you, it's,
It's crazy.
I don't think it was traffic, I think there was other forces behind that.
no, but the traffic engineers are what developed that particular
But
system.
that is a
That's where,
state- I mean, it's a state issue, so
yeah.
unfortunately. I don't think that if it was a town issue, we'd have the issue. Okay, any other communications?
No, you don't have any other communications for this evening.
Okay, unfinished business, that's, we're gonna put off that vote until the next meeting or two,
Yep.
okay, within 60 days.
We have 65 days to act, so you have plenty of time.
Okay, any new business?
No new applications. No chickens.
Okay,
Nope.
any other business come for us tonight?
Can I just ask one thing? Mike, you said at one of the POCD meetings, you had data on how many people, kids were at apartments?
Yes, yes, we have the enrollment data from the Board of Ed.
Okay.
It's 15 kids for all your new apartments, total.
All of them?
All your new apartments in town, 15 kids.
All the ones that are built.
Yeah, anything,
How many?
About half of them are built right now.
350 apartments, there's
Yeah.
12 kids.
15.
Okay.
okay. Anybody else? Okay, can I entertain a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Mr. Corderis, Mr. Salmont, we are adjourned.